Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Her Messy Fun. I am Danielle, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Ellyce, who is the founder of Queered.co. Did I say that correct?
Yeah, just Queered Co.
Oh, Queered Co. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Anyways, we found each other on TikTok. We have become friends ever since, and I am quite obsessed with the information that you have to share. So why don't you just give us a little bit of your elevator pitch? Pretty much it's who you are, what you do, and where we can find you. So that way we can ease into the conversation.
Yeah, sounds good. I feel like I need to work on my elevator pitch. I know this is an important thing in business. You're supposed to have this punchy elevator pitch, but to give you my current elevator pitch that I have, I'm
There's no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. It's all good.
Yeah.
I'm a queer neurodivergent financial educator and content creator who is aiming to put the personal back in personal finance through an intersectional lens. So I created my company Queered Co. that focuses on identifying and addressing how aspects of your identity like privilege, oppression, race, gender, sexuality, mental health, disability, and other identities and lived experiences can affect someone's ability to build wealth. So the goal of my company, Queered Co., is to achieve holistic financial equity. So Queered Co. aims to create safe and accessible resources and digital spaces where people of all identities can visit, find support, and know that their lived experiences are valued where money is concerned. So yeah, that's my little spiel, I guess. It's really hard, I feel to encompass everything that I do in an elevator pitch because I feel like I'm working on so many different things and doing so many different projects. It's hard to encompass all of them. But if you want to find out more about what I'm doing, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and now on podcasts, which is very exciting.
Yeah, it is. So that would be at queered.co. That's where I got the dot from on TikTok and
Yes.
Instagram, correct?
Instagram is my name. Very confusing,
right.
but it's Ellyce.Fulmore, which I'm sure you can just link below because nobody will know how to spell that. And yeah, my podcast is Keep Finance Queered, and you can find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, basically anywhere you listen to podcasts.
And by the time this episode goes out, you're going to have quite a few more episodes on yours. And I've listened to the first two, and I'm so proud of you and so excited for your journey. But I do want to talk about some of your self-employment journey as well. So we kind of already know that you just recently started the podcast. However, what made you decide to go into self-employment?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of a couple different things. So the first one being that I've always hated being put in a box and being told what I can and can't do. So that's something with my previous jobs. I would always have a million ideas and be oh, we can improve this system and we can do this better. And what if we did this? And I always had restrictions on what I was able to actually implement just because of the structure of the company. So that I found really frustrating because I've always just kind of wanted to run with my creativity.
Yeah.
And I also, at the time was I had undiagnosed ADHD. And so I didn't realize that I had ADHD. So I wasn't really coping the best. And I really struggled to follow a typical schedule and to wake up on time and to, be engaged at work every day. And I would have some really hard days where I would just be unable to focus and concentrate and falling asleep at my desk. And it was hard to kind of work under that structure. So that was another reason why self-employment really appealed to me, because I was oh, I can have a lot of freedom. I can take a day off if my mental health is not great, and I can kind of decide what my schedule looks like.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of those things. I also really saw the value of entrepreneurship and how financially lucrative it is, and also how much you can get in time freedom. And just really appealed to me that I could create whatever kind of life that I wanted to, and I could live anywhere I wanted to. I could travel and work. I always really liked that. I used to do a lot of traveling before the pandemic. So that was something that was also important to me, is having some sort of remote work. So all of those things in combination with the pandemic, I think was what really pushed me to go down the self-employment route because, at the beginning of 2020, I was working part-time at a like corporate job, and then part-time, I had just started my coaching business. I had like 2 clients at the time. And then the pandemic hit in March, or like everything shut down in March. I got laid off from my part-time job. And that also kind of was like the final push into self-employment because I didn't really have an option at that point. So I think it was like a combination of all of those things.
It's crazy because I feel like I say this all the time, and like I don't say it like lightly by any means, but I feel like for people, like the pandemic really saved a lot of neurodivergent people, like our mindsets, I should say. And it also, for some, I know it like was a struggle, it's still a struggle just purely because of like the loneliness and everything that follows with that. But like the ability to understand, and also all of us got diagnosed with the proper diagnoses. So like I got diagnosed under the pandemic with ADHD, and I don't think I would have noticed otherwise. It was like, like everything that you listed and said about working in a corporate field is exactly what I went through. And I still had no idea that that was part of it. And so I think that it's interesting that a lot of professionals have geared towards the self-employment route. And I'm like proud of everybody that has gone that way. I've been self-employed for like since it's either 2016 or 2017. And truthfully, the pandemic has brought out more freedom for your businesses and stuff. And so I'm really like excited to see how TikTok's changed that for everybody, how social media is like adapting to like how we're all like, nope, fuck it. Like we're going to do what we want to do. And then also just like the liberation of knowledge that's being spewed. And I think you are one of the you're one of the many people that I follow, but one of my favorite people to pop up on my For You page when it comes about like anything neurodivergent and education on finances, because you just really do a great job of like hitting education that I might not need for me personally, but that I should be aware of for other people. And I think that that's a wonderful aspect of your business. So I wanted to know if you would be willing to share like some of your, I mean, we kind of understand your business values and we know your mission, but like specifically, who's your person to serve?
Yeah. So I have kind of like a variety of different kind of groups of people I feel like that I appeal to, largely like millennial and Gen Z in terms of like age demographics. But then obviously I have a large like neurodivergent following, which is amazing. So a lot of people with ADHD, but also people with other like mental health struggles that can relate a lot to the content, because there is obviously a lot of overlap with a lot of mental health. So a lot of people that are neurodivergent and a lot of the queer community, which I love too. So those are probably like some of the main groups of people that I've attracted through my content. I also do have, I think, like a small group of like entrepreneurs and business owners that also follow me and like my content. So yeah, it's kind of like I've pulled from these different groups, but I also feel like a lot of them just like overlap and like understand each other. So I think that like my content really speaks to a lot of different people, but I'm mostly, like serving those people who they can be honestly in a lot of different parts of their financial journey. Like some of my content does speak to people that are like just starting out. And it's just kind of like, what is the first step that I do? Like I haven't ever really sat down to think about my money, and I haven't taken the time to like, learn about my finances. So I really help those people, but I would say like the majority of my content is kind of catered to people that are more in the middle of their journey. So have maybe, started to take some steps with their finances, are probably feeling like stressed out about their money, are like unsure how to like prepare for their future, or maybe unsure how to balance all their financial goals, and are like really looking for systems that work for them that are not like the traditional finance systems that they've always like struggled with. So it's like those people who feel like traditional finance advice just doesn't make sense for them and like doesn't speak to them. And that's like where I really feel like I'm trying to fill that gap of like, it's not you, like you're not the problem. It's not that like something's wrong with you and you're not like motivated enough or not smart enough or any of those things. It's literally that like we weren't given the financial tools, and most of the tools that do exist are made for like the straight white cis able-bodied man, like it doesn't include so many other marginalized identities. And so that's like another thing that I try to really speak to in my content, and like most specifically through my own experience of like being neurodivergent and queer.
Yeah. So what like big three pieces of advice would you give, let's say an early stage entrepreneur who's worried about just finances in general? And like no pressure or anything, like if it's not specific or geared towards the early stage entrepreneur, it can be anybody, but what's your like big three pieces of advice that you just like want people to know when it comes to finances?
So I think my number one would be to keep your business finances separate right from the beginning. I operated.
Made a mistake.
So did I. Honestly, so did I. When I just actually switched to being a corporation. So I was like operating as a sole proprietor for a long time. So technically, like you don't have to have a business account if you're a sole proprietor, but I still recommend having like a separate account. It can just be like a free, like don't pay for it, get like a free bank account and keep your money separate and have like separate savings for your business, separate like bill account where you pay your bills out of, like separate spending, like keep it separate. Even if you're making like $50 a month, like it will help so much as you grow to just like have that like implemented right from the beginning. So that would definitely be a big one. Another one would be to really invest in your financial literacy education and money mindset in whatever way that looks like. Like you can consume free education on that, or you can, hire someone if that's what you want to do. But I suggest doing that like early on, even before a lot of the other, like if you're going to take coaching courses or invest in coaches, because your money and finances affect so many areas of your business. Like if you have a scarcity mindset around money, it's going to be hard for you to price yourself at what you deserve to be charged. It's going to be hard for you to do sales calls. It's going to be hard for you to like show up online and like talk about things. Then it's also going to be really hard as money does start to come in to manage it. And I've talked to like a lot of entrepreneurs who grew up like not having a lot of money and then started making a lot of money in their business. And it was like, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? Like, and it becomes very overwhelming and scary. And you really want to be able to take advantage of like when that money's coming in and feel like in control of it. So having like that piece of, or that knowledge and education, like under your belt, like right from the beginning, again, even before you're making any money is really helpful. And the third piece of advice is save up an emergency fund. This goes for everyone, whether you're a business owner or not.
Okay. So you did a video, I think maybe like a week or two ago. I don't remember which one I saw first. It was the same exact one though. It was either on Instagram or TikTok. I sent it right away to my husband. So he is very like, let's pay off the debt before like having the savings account type of person, because like, I mean, that's genuinely like what we're taught right from a really early age, like debt's bad, don't have debt. So when you made that video of like, no, you need to have a savings account and here's why, and I sent it to him, we both just had this like epiphany of like, oh, and like I feel like, and he's also neurodivergent, so I feel like we both just had this like this tightness in our chest just release, and it felt so good. So sorry to interrupt you, but go ahead and go into that and like explain a little bit why it's important for this.
Yeah. So this is something that I feel like I always get like an initial, like people are like, wait, what? Like, are you sure? But
Dave Ramsey says,
I know. Yeah. So essentially, when it comes to your financial priorities, like number one priority, of course, is paying your bills and like making sure that your bills are covered. But once that happens, your second priority should be saving up an emergency fund. And that should be a priority that comes before even paying off debt, which is where the backlash happens. People are like, what do you mean? I'm just supposed to not pay off my debt. So the reason why I suggest having an emergency fund before aggressively paying off your debt is because if you are, say, trying to pay off a credit card credit cards typically have very high interest. So let's say like 20% interest, you're trying to pay it down because the interest is accumulating quickly. And let's say you have $10,000 on it and you end up paying off 5,000. So you have 5,000 left, you're feeling really good. And then something unexpected comes up that you have to pay for. And this could be a lot of different things. Like your car could break down, your cat could have to go to the vet and get emergency surgery. You might have to start paying for a medication that you weren't expecting. There's a million things.
I love how you talk about paying for meds or like the emergency rooms and stuff when you live in Canada.
Yeah, no, I mean, my meds aren't covered. I pay out of pocket.
They're not? Oh my God, I didn't know that. I thought you were just like hitting my target audience and like being like, yes, I'm hitting Americans.
Right no, people think like Canada free healthcare, but like, I mean, we do have like, I can go to the doctor's office for free, but a lot of things like aren't covered. Like dentist is not covered. I pay everything out of pocket. Same with like the eye doctor. Like a lot of procedures aren't covered. It just like depends. There's like certain things that are covered, but some medications are covered, but a lot of them aren't. So it's confusing.
You learn something new every day, especially when you are raised in America.
Yeah. So basically then if something unexpected comes up, you don't have a savings account or an emergency fund to fall back on. So that money is most likely going to go on your credit card. So then you could end up in the same or even worse situation than you were when you started your debt repayment journey and be back at like $10,000 or more in like a day. Like it can happen instantly. And so when you have an emergency fund that's built up, it protects you from going into more debt so that when you actually start your debt repayment journey, if something comes up, you put it on your emergency fund and your debt repayment doesn't change and you don't go into any more debt. And so you can actually have momentum and continue that momentum and not be held back by things coming up. So that's something I hear a lot too, is people are like, I'm trying to pay off this debt, but like things just keep coming up. And that's what your emergency fund can help protect you from. And I do want to note that like, while you're building up your emergency fund, you do want to continue to pay your minimum debt payments. So like, don't just like stop paying your minimum payments, but don't put any like extra money towards your debt until you have that emergency fund. And then you can like shift gears and aggressively pay down that high interest debt.
So my husband has really bad anxiety and like, I mean, he's got like OCD anxiety. So like, it's really bad. So when we saw your video, he was like, but what if we like, when we get into that situation again, like, or whatever it might be, he's like, we could just like put $5 extra to it or $10 extra. And I was like, yeah, because that does make a difference. So like, if you are like sitting here sweating in your pits, being like, I cannot just pay my minimum, what would you say about people adding like 5 to 10 extra available dollars to the debt repayment versus the savings?
Yeah, I think that's definitely like something you can do. I also think that does maybe illuminate some like mindset areas to potentially work on too. Like society has like drilled into our head like how bad debt is and that it's like the worst thing ever. And it's gonna like, it is like this big scary thing. And if you're feeling a lot of anxiety, then I think that's like a great tip of like, you can still put an extra like $5 to $10 towards it. But I also think like examining maybe like why that anxiety is coming up and like why it's so uncomfortable. And like examining that a little bit more too can be helpful because I have seen like when people start saving up their emergency fund, they end up actually feeling a lot less anxious and like more safe and secure because you have that like savings there that you haven't had before. So I would also like argue, I guess, that putting that extra like $5 to the savings would also help you get to that goal faster. But I think like everyone's situation is different. And if that's what you need to do to like make this switch and put more money towards your emergency fund, then like do it. Like that's still a great, amazing step.
Yeah. Okay. So I do have like another question for you. There was an app that you told us to download for like I'm not good at your lingo, but like high ranking savings type of thing, high interest savings or
high yield savings account.
High yield savings. Yeah. Do you remember what that app was for? What it was called? Because I can't pull it up. I hide everything. So then I end up forgetting names. But it was I feel like we were like looking into it and being like, okay, well, we'll put like $5 to $10 towards like a high yield savings account too, right? So that could like potentially end up making us like the like, what is it called? What are we just talking about? Oh God, my brain is like fried right now. Sorry.
Debt, interest.
Yeah. Just like having more, like our savings account, just like having like the rainy day savings account situation be higher. So what's your favorite app to use for Americans and Canadians?
Yeah. So, just to like expand on that. So
And explain it.
No, it's okay. Your emergency fund, the one that we just talked about, I recommend storing it in a high yield savings account. So that's what we're talking about right now for everyone listening. Your regular savings account, break up with it, get rid of it. It's not doing anything for you.
Wait, we're not supposed to even have one of those anymore? Okay. I'm learning.
I mean, you can have one, but don't store your savings in there.
Yeah.
Basically. And the reason for that is because most like typical savings accounts with a bank give you like 0.01 or like 0.05% interest, which is essentially nothing, won't give you anything. Whereas a high yield savings account is like anywhere from like 0.2 to like 2%. So it's still low. It's not like anything like an investment, but it's going to give you a lot more than like 0% is going to give you. And these are not, I want to stress, these are not investment accounts. So you're not like investing your money into the stock market. There's no risk of you losing your money. You're not gambling it in any way. It's in a secure savings account. Just think of it as your regular savings account on steroids. Okay. It has like a little extra something.
Yeah. And so sometimes it takes a little longer to take it out, right? Like when I've always heard that high yield savings accounts, sometimes like when you need to like pull out of the account, that it takes like an extra day or two to actually gain access to the funds, depending on if it's all online or if they're like an in-person bank. Is that a rumor or is that
maybe this depends on your bank, but it should be instant. Like that's the reason why I recommend high yield savings accounts for emergency funds, is because you can like withdraw the money right away. Okay. So where I bank, which is my Canadian recommendation, which is EQ Bank, you can e-transfer out. So I could e-transfer same day. And then I also have it linked to my bank, so I can externally like transfer it to another bank account, like wire transfer it basically like the same day. Yeah. So, but it might depend. If you're in the US, it might be different, but I know a lot of my US clients also use Zelle to like auto transfer it really quickly. Yeah. But yeah, my US recommendation is Ally Bank. And Ally's awesome because they have something called buckets where you can like organize your savings into little like multiple buckets. So you can name them different things. So if you want to like have differentiation between like what you're going to use that savings for, that's really helpful. And yeah, I also have like savings funds for like, aside from my emergency fund, I have ones for like my kind of like mental health rainy day, my like ADHD fund, travel fund, like things like that. So Ally makes it really easy because you can organize all those buckets.
Oh my gosh. We need to like dive deep into the Ally app. I think I like opened it up and then somebody called my name and I ended up like forgetting all about it, but I definitely downloaded it the day that I saw your video and I was like, oh, nice. So I feel like there's just like people that aren't financially educated in any way, shape or form. Like I'm good with money, but I'm not financially educated. And I feel like there's so many lies and rumors and like mindsets to get around, and I'm so grateful that you are here to break a few of those lies up and those rumors up. Is there one last piece of advice that you'd want to give anybody when it comes to financial savings advice, or just like genuinely where to start your financial education journey?
This is a great question.
I would say to that is literally every interview I'm going to be doing that. I can't.
My biggest piece of advice would probably be to find a safe space that you can learn in. And I think this is like the common theme that I keep circling back to in like all my content. And since the beginning of my business is like this idea of safe spaces when it comes to like everything, because if you don't feel safe in like the situation that you're in and who you're talking to, you're not going to feel comfortable asking questions. And I think that's where some of the
even showing your money, like to the person, to show like, because money can be embarrassing, like and totally. it can be exciting, it can be all of the feelings. So if you're in like embarrassment mindset mode, like definitely You need to be able to show the person your accounts.
Yeah. Like I always think of like my first experience going into a bank and like talking to a financial advisor, like when I was 18, and I just had like the most misogynistic man helping me, like literally made a comment like, oh, like we don't have to talk too much about that because like when you're married, your husband will deal with that or something like along those lines. And I was like, okay, thanks. Like, very helpful. And yeah, he just like sold me a bunch of like bank products without like, didn't explain anything to me. And like, I felt so stupid in those meetings. Like I felt embarrassed. I didn't know. I felt like a stupid like girl that didn't know what she was talking about, you know? So I didn't feel comfortable asking any questions. He also didn't even like try to like educate me at all. But that is like something that I really go back to. And I know that so many people share that a similar experience in some way. And yeah, if you don't feel safe in that space you're in, then you're not going to be able to ask questions. You're not going to be able to, like you said, like show your accounts or talk about what you're struggling with. So if you can find a safe space online or in person, like it doesn't have to be like a financial advisor. It can be literally like, you know, my TikTok page or some other financial creator or like a blog or a YouTube channel or something where you feel like these are my people. Like I feel safe here. These people have gone through similar things that I have. That just like allows you to feel comfortable in opening up about your own struggles. And I think that's like the most important step, is like being able to like feel like you're not alone, feel like, you know, someone's like, it's okay, I'm here with you. And then you can like start to talk about those things. So I would definitely say that. And in terms of a more tangible place to start with your finances, I'm going to plug myself because I have a free financial audit that is basically, you're just doing an audit of like where your finances are currently at. So the worksheet like walks through how to figure out like your income, all of your fixed expenses and what that looks like, your debt, your savings. So it's basically all in one spot, in one document, so that you can see all the numbers out in front of you, which yes, is terrifying, but also like just one of the most important things you can do at the beginning is like get all of your like shit out on the table. Hopefully we're allowed to swear.
No, we are.
Okay.
I like flicked off the camera and said, fuck it earlier today. So we're allowed to swear.
Okay. But yeah, you get all your shit on the table so you can actually like look at it and figure out, okay, what's my next step? Because right now, like you're probably like, my finances are out of control. Like I don't feel good about my money. Like what am I supposed to do? And then you're just making decisions from like that panicked, like survival kind of like mindset, as opposed to like being able to like get everything out, take a step back and be like, okay, what makes the most sense? Like, how should I move forward? And then at least you have like a direction of like what to look up and what to like start researching. So those would be my untangible and tangible pieces of advice of where to start.
Oh, well, they're good, especially for, I mean, like, so I'm going to just share my like first moment of banking that I can like think back to really quick. I'm partially deaf, but I didn't get like told I was until I went through my sign language interpreting program and like got to like the big part where they're like, okay, now we're going through the certification. You have to get a hearing test. And I did not pass. And I was like, oh cool. I'm glad I just like did 3 years of schooling for this.
No way.
Yeah. So when I was there's a point to this, but when I was when I turned 18, I went into the bank and I remember going in and being like, I have so many questions. I've been so good with money. I've worked 40 hours a week since I was 15. Like I know how to save money. I know where my money's going, like all that stuff. And I couldn't hear the person speaking. And so I thought they just weren't answering my questions. And like the ones that they were answering, they were like, And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like I kept saying, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
And I feel like that was like the start of me feeling sorry for my bank account. And then it was just such a different relationship after that. So yes, I 100% agree on like the safety situation and like I could not push that anymore. Like, and anybody that is undiagnosed with ADHD, but like thinks that they have it, if you even think that you have it, go check out Ellyce's TikTok, because I believe I was following you before I even got diagnosed and things just started clicking so well that I was like,
I've gotten a lot of comments like that. People are like, oh, this makes a little bit too much sense.
Yeah. And like, it's also really nice to be able to just like be in a safe zone, talking about money, talking about savings, talking about debt without any form of judgment. And I think you do a really great job of being judgment free. So, and that's just coming from my perspective. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm really grateful that you showed up today and you shared a lot of valuable information to my audience, and I could not thank you enough. So the free audit will be linked in the show notes, as well as on Instagram. I'm going to be having like a highlight for podcast interviewees, and all of their links and all of their social media platforms will be linked on that story. So if you don't make it to the show notes, go to my social media, go to Instagram, you'll find her, and you can look up queered.co on TikTok, and Ellyce Fuller. How to pronounce your last name for me again?
Fulmore.
Fulmore. I always want to say it like Fullermore. And
yeah, I get like Fillmore a lot too.
Oh, yeah, I could see that, especially when like your name is just like so close to each other.
Yeah.
But thank you again. Is there any other exciting news that you want to like mention?
The only thing I want to mention is that for those of you that are listening and that don't have like the same identity as me, because obviously I know that like what I have to offer is like a lot of it is my own experience. And I do hold a lot of privilege, like, you know, being a white woman, raised middle class, you know, pretty privilege, thin privilege, all of that. My podcast is really focusing on like giving the microphone to different groups of people and like different marginalized identities and like people that don't typically get invited into financial conversations. So all of my guests are from like going to be from a very diverse background, different experiences, you know, different lives, different jobs. Like they're not in the finance industry. So if you're listening right now and maybe you don't resonate a lot with me, I definitely recommend checking out my podcast and seeing if you resonate with any of the guests, because they're talking about their own identity and how that has impacted their money from like a non-financial perspective, which I think is really important. So I just wanted to say that, like, I know that I only have my own experience, but that is a goal of like Queered Co, is to amplify voices of different people. So it's not just like me talking.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And you're really good about sharing what you post on your podcast and in video format via like visual format of Instagram posts too. So again, go follow her on Instagram. Yeah. It's very quick education and it makes you feel a lot better about yourself. So
well, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we finally, this is the first time we're meeting like outside of TikTok. Like I know there's certain people on TikTok where like we like comment on each other's videos and you're one of them. And I'm like, I feel like I know her. I didn't even hesitate to reach out to you. And I'm so grateful for TikTok for that, man. Like part of the experience. And so thank you so much for showing up and like hanging out with me today.
Awesome.
Yeah. And if you're listening, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Please think about subscribing, sharing, and tagging us if you do. And yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.